The evening sun dipped low behind the distant ridge, casting molten gold across the valley as Elena Hartley trudged up the dirt path toward her small cabin, her arms heavy with vegetables and her spirit even heavier with loneliness. Life on the frontier had always been cruel, but since her father's passing, the silence around her home felt deeper, like the land itself had lost its heartbeat. She stopped near the creek to rinse her hands, the cool water soothing her aching fingers. Then she heard it, a groan, deep and ragged, nothing human yet too desperate to belong to any animal she knew. Her chest tightened as she scanned the trees. For a moment, all she saw was fading daylight and shifting shadows. But then a man staggered into view, swaying like a storm-beaten tree. He collapsed beside a fallen log, his body a landscape of scars, his skin smeared with blood and dirt. Long black hair hung over his face, tangled and matted, and a feathered headband marked him unmistakably as Apache, the very people settlers were taught to fear. Every warning her father had ever spoken roared in her ears. Stay away, do not invite danger, do not involve yourself in battles you cannot understand. But as she stood staring at the broken man in front of her, chest heaving with pain, Elena felt something stir inside her, something stronger than fear, compassion, determination, humanity. She stepped forward, hands raised, voice soft, and the warrior struggled to lift his head. His dark eyes locked onto hers, fierce, wild, yet pleading for help. He tried to stand but fell hard, his body unable to obey him. In that moment, the decision made itself. Elena knelt beside him, pressed her shoulder under his, and dragged him inch by agonizing inch toward her cabin. He was impossibly heavy, a solid wall of muscle and exhaustion, but she refused to stop until she had eased him onto her own bed, the only comfortable place she owned. She saw the fever in his eyes, the old and new wounds burning across his torso. She boiled water, tore strips from her spare dress, crushed herbs, and cleaned him carefully, whispering words of comfort even though she knew he couldn't understand them. Hours passed. Storm winds battered the roof, but Elena did not sleep. She stayed beside him, cooling his fever and wiping blood from his skin. When he finally opened his eyes, disoriented and breathing unevenly, she whispered gently, "You're safe." And for a brief moment, the fierce fire in his eyes flickered with trust. Days turned to nights as Elena tended to the warrior. She learned his name, Koa, spoken in a deep voice, roughened by pain but steady with strength. When his fever broke, his voice grew stronger, his eyes sharper. He watched her quietly, respectfully, with a mixture of gratitude and confusion, as though he did not understand why a stranger would give her only bed to someone like him. He told her in broken English of an ambush, betrayal, soldiers hunting him like prey. She didn't push for details. She simply listened, offering what he had been denied for too long: safety. In the evenings, when she curled up on the hard wooden floor while he slept in her bed, she tried to convince herself this was temporary, that she wouldn't miss him when he was gone. But each morning, when she found him awake and watching her with unreadable eyes, she knew she was lying to herself. She had given him shelter. She had given him care. And slowly, without meaning to, she had given him her heart. When Koa finally regained his strength, Elena felt pride and dread in equal measure. The morning he stepped outside without wavering, breathing deeply as if tasting freedom again. She knew the moment she had dreaded was close. He told her soldiers had been spotted nearby. They were hunting him. Staying here meant putting her life in danger. He had to leave. The words felt like knives, though she understood he was only trying to protect her. Before she could respond, the crack of distant gunfire echoed through the valley, soldiers closer than either of them had realized. Elena's blood ran cold as shadows of men on horseback appeared at the far end of her field. Koa pulled her behind the cabin, but when the riders reached her door, shouting demands, Elena knew only one thing mattered: protecting him. She stepped out boldly, hiding her trembling hands, and lied with fierce conviction. She told them she had been alone for weeks, that no Apache man had come near her land. If they wanted to search her home, she warned them, they'd have to do so over her dead body. The soldiers, frustrated but unsure of provoking her, rode off. When they disappeared over the ridge, Koa emerged from the trees, his expression filled with disbelief and emotion. She had risked her life for him. Her voice shook when she answered, but her heart did not. "I'll risk it again." Koa stared at her for a long moment, and something in his eyes softened. Something deep, unspoken, powerful. He said he could not leave her unprotected. His people were near. If she allowed him, he would call them. Elena nodded before her mind even caught up with her heart. That evening, he vanished into the woods. Hours later, as the sun slipped behind the ridge, the sound reached her, soft drumming like distant thunder. Then the glow of torches appeared between the trees. Dozens of Apache warriors emerged silently into her field. Men with painted faces, women carrying baskets, children peeking curiously from behind their mothers. It wasn't an attack. It was an arrival. A promise. A tribe honoring a woman who had saved one of their own. Koa approached her with calm pride, his posture tall and steady in the flickering firelight. He told her that saving a warrior created a sacred bond in his people's traditions. She had given him her only bed, her care, her courage. In return, they had come to protect her land, her home, her life. That night, her empty valley filled with campfires, watchful warriors, laughter, children's footsteps, and a sense of belonging she had never known. Her loneliness melted away in the warmth of shared meals, stories, and respect. Koa stayed by her side, not as a wounded stranger, but as someone who seemed tied to her fate. They spoke often, walked the fields together, rebuilding what loneliness had stolen from her. And sometimes when the firelight reflected in his eyes, she saw a future she never dared imagine. She had once saved his life. Now he and his people had given her a life worth living. And as they stood beneath the stars, surrounded by the soft hum of an Apache camp alive in her field, Elena realized her story had only just begun. Friends, if you enjoyed this powerful story of courage, sacrifice, and unexpected bonds, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support inspires us to bring you more heart-touching stories filled with emotion, suspense, and unforgettable moments. Don't forget to click the bell icon so you never miss the next incredible chapter.